Mark. I'm going to come at this from a slightly different angle. I'm at the University of Oxford in the School of Archaeology, and my colleague Katerina, who's at the back, and I have been working on crowdsourcing. For us has a different purpose perhaps from some of the other projects we've been hearing about. Our primary purpose in developing a crowdsourcing platform was not particularly to get the people to do work for us, but to borrow some of Ben's words here, is to get people to support and advocate for some very, very important and valuable archives that we have within the school. So just to take you very briefly, because I know coffee is waiting and stuff like that, but so Katerina and I were invited to do a scoping survey of the archives within the departments in arts and humanities within the school, within the Oxford University. Because of the structure of the university, colleges are very well supported and have quite a lot of money. Departments, by comparison, have not been so well supported financially, and money is a little hard to come by, and the money that there is devoted to teaching, to staff. The departments have accumulated over the centuries archives that are drifted up into desks and attics and cupboards and basements and other interesting places to visit. But there are very few of the departments within arts and humanities at the university have any dedicated provision for archives, and they certainly don't have archivists. And the School of Archaeology is one of those schools that has no archivists. However, it does have a huge amount of important research material that has been effectively inaccessible. If I tell you that we, for example, are based in a sub-basement, not a basement, but a sub-basement, gives you a hint of how difficult it is to find us and to sort of access the material. Because there is nobody promoting or nobody advocating for this material, it is in constant danger of being thrown away. Don't spread that, don't tell anybody that's just between us. But there, as personnel change, as knowledge of the resources change, material is under threat of being moved on, possibly in the direction of the bin. And indeed, some of the resources that we have included in our project have been rescued from skips in the past, in the 70s. Obviously, that sort of thing happened in the past. It doesn't happen now. When we were doing our scoping survey, we were looking for a project that would allow us to demonstrate the value of the archives, to demonstrate their research potential. And a unifying factor amongst the departments were their lantern slide and glass plate collections. They're old teaching collections, redundant archive, redundant technology. We heard a great deal about how all the important images had been copied and scanned, and how this is it's not even a proper, it's a pseudo collection because the materials are gathered from different sources, and many of the images are copies of copies or copies out of books. We felt that there was at least something to be said about the history of disciplines in this sense, but that's maybe a bit of a niche topic. But as we went through, and this is just an example of the sort of thing, I hope you know the sort of thing we're talking about, glass plates, lantern slides in various kinds of containers. It became obvious to us that there was a clear research topic that we could advertise, that people would understand and would get behind. We were able to raise funds to carry out the project. We've had £300,000. We're in the second year of the project. So we decided to focus on just those images that showed landscapes. So there are many more valuable images in there, but what we're trying to do is call attention to the resource. Now that people are beginning to recognise there's a resource that's not a problem, but full of potential, they're starting now to talk about the rest of the image archive and the wider archives. But we wanted to go for the key thing that would attract attention, flag waving. Look at this stuff, it's important. So we went for landscapes. And this is a list of the original departments and groups and museums that were contributing their ancient collections, which we were going to digitise and then get a crowdsourcing platform to work with. This is we're still at the beta phase. We haven't done a proper public launch yet, and this slide is taken from an early phase of our historic environment image resource platform. We're inviting the people to help us to tag. Many of our images have no metadata with them at all, and there are only 3 of us working in the sub-basement full-time on this project, although we're supported by a great team of volunteers and people drop in from other departments and help out. But basically it's just the 3 of us. So we need help tagging materials. So we've included the metadata with the images, but we want the public to help us. You're familiar with this sort of thing. But we're also focusing very particularly on our discussions. when we first talked to Zooniverse about setting this up, who gave us lots of advice, they were talking about needing to look at the speed of tagging and get the images through so that people could tag them, and we realised with an arts and humanities approach, that's not what we want to do at all. What we want is to get people to engage with the images. They are beautiful pictures. They're from about 1880 onwards. They are gorgeous. And we want people to engage, we want people to discuss, we want people to have conversations about them. So we dropped the sort of how many tags can you do, and instead we're trying to gear it more towards having conversations about the pictures. And we've got the usual thing, a guide to show you how to do it, a tutorial. The other thing about this is we wanted to make this a truly interdisciplinary resource, although we are interested in how the buildings and monuments have changed over time, about sort of archaeological aspects. When we showed geographers some of our archaeology images, they immediately said, ooh, coastlines, ooh, rivers, this is really important to look at what rivers were doing 100 years ago. And since we started talking about the project, we've had tram enthusiasts, boat enthusiasts, bicycle enthusiasts coming to us and using our images to support their research, but also giving us huge amounts of information about the social and political environment within the images. I'm just going to flip through, oh, lost a page. We've got some drop-down boxes, but we've put a lot of emphasis on free text. And our initial findings on this is that free text works very well indeed, and that helps to develop the conversation. We have, when you go, I hope you'll all have go into AirTagger, there is a drop down at the bottom, tells you the captions that came with the slide, if we had any, and its location, if we know it. We are asking people to help us locate many of the images as well. We've deliberately left that kind of information, you have to scroll down to find it, because what we're trying to emphasise is we want people to look at the images with their own eyes, and as far as possible not to be guided by what they think they're supposed to be looking at. This caption, for example, is designed for an archaeological audience from 100 years ago, but we don't want you necessarily to look at this image as archaeology. Come at it with an open mind. And in that way, we hope we'll build up the largest possible variety of keywords. So we do have a discussion page, and we've now got some very lively discussions going on. We've framed it, and as you can see, it's trending discussion section as well. We've framed it as a kind of journey. You've got to have some kind of gaming element. For us, it's a journey. And we want people to treat it like a journey so that they can stop and look and dwell on the images and think about buildings in the past, buildings today, landscapes in the past, landscapes today. So we've in fact got worldwide coverage in our lantern slides and glass plate negatives. And there are some, we give you the option of, lucky dip, see where it takes you. We also have a set of mystery slides. We have no idea what, we ourselves, we have a mystery slide. We look at it, we go, that's a church, it's a Norman church. I can do Norman churches. 3 hours of Googling later, we still haven't identified which Norman church it is, but we know that if you live next door to it, you'd be able to tell us straight away. So, and we do have people who commute from Oxford to London, for example, who instead of reading on the coach, pick a mystery slide and spend their journey trying to identify it. And on our discussion page, we've had whole essays where people have looked up the shopkeepers on a shop front and told us their history. So there's proper engagement. And this is what we want. We want the university to recognise that this resource needs more attention, more money, and that they can't just accidentally lose it in the future because too many people know about it. So it really is about, I sound a bit cynical, don't I? But it's really important. And over 2 years, our profile, the profile of archives within the university and within the department has gone up massively. And we're now being sent graduates to do dissertations in the archive material. I mean, 2 years ago, the archives were a problem that needed getting rid of. Now they are a resource that we are exploiting, and this is fabulous. We have, we're building up our social media. We've got over 2,000 people following us, which I can tell you for the School of Archaeology is pretty impressive. We give you travel by different routes depending on how much tagging and discussing you've done. But the key thing of this also is there's a space for you to upload your own images because we've also developed a mobile app which is now available. If you go to AIR, it's only available on iPhones at the moment, but we're we've just been given some more funding to allow it to spread to other platforms. So use your Zooniverse login. I'm sure you all have a Zooniverse login. And what you can do is the mobile app allows you to call up images from our database from where you are, where your location, or you can type in a place you're going to. And say you're in Winchester, you'll get a selection of our images of Winchester. You can pick an image that you want to re-photograph. There's a slide-in, slide-out fader so that you can overlay our photographs with what you see in front of you, and then you can upload your image and add to the database. So we are, from the get-go, we're asking the public to be co-researchers with us. It's not just about the tagging, it's about engaging with the images. We also hope that with the mobile phone application, it will encourage people to visit sites, to look at places, and to think about how environments have changed over time, which buildings need more care, or how buildings have been affected over time. And so we're really focusing very heavily on advocacy, about getting public support, about getting interest in the resources, not just the photographic resources, but also the other records that we have. I think it's been very successful so far. As I say, the money is beginning to be found for work in the archive and for research in the archive. This is a list of the partners we began with 2 years ago. Since then, we've been offered more and more collections, and part of our sustainability programme is that when we run out of our initial funding, we will be asking people who've donated their images or had their images scanned for the project to pay subscriptions if they want to keep their images with us. What they get is fantastic new tagging. They get access to high-resolution images. Only they can access the high-resolution images, but the public can access low-resolution images. All the images with their data, with their keyword data, is available online. There's an online HEIR site that you can go to now and just look at our images. And since May, when we first sort of launched within the university, we've been offered 3 new collections, including one of 35,000 lantern slide images that have never been seen by the public. So there's obvious scope here for linking up with other groups, and there's obvious scope for large amounts of research to take place on the basis of these images. I have to say, endangered archaeology in particular is keen to link up with our images of Syria and the Middle East, and there's massive potential. But just the fact that we're here means that in terms of achieving what one of our first aims was, we have achieved it. We are here, you know about the collection, you can go and look at the images, and I hope you will contact the School of Archaeology, say what a fantastic resource it is, and that they have to look after it, and us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.